Hi, I'm Alek Dincoff. We're here again. We're back with Steve Todd, founder of Open Sourced Workplace, and we're doing our weekly chat. You want to jump in, chime, and say hi to everybody on Facebook and watching this video?
Sure. Yep. Good evening to everybody. It's Monday evening here, and back here with Alek for a question. And I understand he's got a whole host of questions for me, so I'm excited to dive right in.
No, they're not. They've got a whole slew of everything. They're not too hard, but that's the point of this. We're here to pick your brain, see what you're going through every week, and just kind of get a feel for how you handle issues, problems, come to your solution, just everything. But since Halloween is right around the corner, let's what kind of a dateline of what Monday this is. My first and foremost question, usually I would ask what's new in your week, but I actually want to ask you something specific since Halloween's this Wednesday. What's your opinion, or have you seen goods and bads with costumes or at least celebrations for certain holidays, not necessarily Halloween, but coworker environment celebrations in the workplace? I've read tons of articles, and you constantly listen, and you're always going over new information. I just wanted to hear your experience, and also if you've heard anything on the subject since it's right around the corner.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, Alek. So from a personal perspective, growing up in the UK, Halloween was not a big deal. It just wasn't. It was another holiday. Actually, for my family, I have a cousin whose birthday is on Halloween, so that was more a celebration for us for that purpose. Coming to the US, completely different. New York City on Halloween, my eyes almost fell out, and I couldn't believe the excitement that people had to get dressed up. And I'm not one for getting dressed up, but eventually you kind of get into the spirit of it, and you get on with it. So from that perspective, it's a very cultural difference for me. And your the second part of your question regarding the workplace, any opportunity to enable social cohesion in the workplace should be celebrated and should be enhanced. So in any way you can bring in, staff, employees together, work colleagues together, I think all that should be encouraged. And anything you can do to sort of make light of it and give people that opportunity to be it dress up, be it whatever, I think only adds to the social interactions of the workplace, and that's the big takeaway. I've seen some fun images being shared around social media, LinkedIn, etc., on what different companies are doing to promote not necessarily Halloween per se, but their environment, their culture, their company spirit of bringing their employees together. And again, anything you can do that to show and improve employee experience, not only to those who are within the organization, but to those who may be interested in coming and working in your organization. So that's an interesting spin that sort of people can sort of think about.
Okay, well said. Well said. It's. I didn't expect. I forget your upbringing, so that was a neat twist. I know sometimes I throw questions out that you're not expecting, but this time you caught me off guard. That's good. Now we can dive into the nitty gritty. So what's new this week, but specifically what's on my mind is, what's your favorite article this week? What podcast are you listening to? What video has piqued your interest this week that's just caught your attention? Is there anything that specifically for you is important? And then we can bring it back to the everyday life, open source workplace.
Yeah, so regarding open source, actually article, there was one that was published this week on remote working that I really liked. I actually really enjoying the glossary sections. So this is really just where we get a workplace term. We then leverage the best or good definitions of those terms and then share those. And I actually really like those, and I actually like that you get the term, you get the definition, and then the way my mind works, the curious mind that I have, is like I dig into it. So I go from article to article to article, and it's actually amazing whenever you go down that rabbit hole, some of the content you find, some of the things that people have put together. It's phenomenal. There are articles that I've found that I'm going to post myself, and I'm just holding back, waiting for the right time to post. And it's really eye-opening for me. Something that's quite simple. So it's 3 definitions that the industry provides, but actually it gives very different viewpoints per se, in the sense of how the definition is used. The companies that are the organizations that are providing the definitions, and how they're utilizing those definitions to either promote their business or industry or sector. It's quite interesting. The video, the YouTube video, as I said, I watch a lot on SEO, and everything, as I mentioned last week, everything I'm saying about it's how long it actually takes for SEO to ramp up. And again, that's just been reiterated across different sites. I actually tested something this week. I tested in the sense of, there's a marketer who's on YouTube who basically is sort of showing and trying to convince you that he can improve SEO beyond what, all these different tools and tricks that he has. So I went, okay, let me just test it, because I like to test things and sort of say, okay, so if I did this, what happens? If I do A, what happens at BC? So I filled out a form knowing that this was going to put me on some list, and knowing it was going to do probably lead to a lot of calls and junk mail. But I did it anyway, because I wanted to see how this smart marketing guy actually produces a YouTube video, how he then puts it out there, and then what he does and what his communication is with me. So what words is he using that sort of attract me to actually give him my email? What words are actually being sent to me as an email, and then who's following up, and how long does it take for that follow-up, and then what's the follow-up from that follow-up. And whenever I get a phone call, it's what questions are they asking me, and how are they guiding and informing me. Again, this is all learning experience, right? So it's really interesting. So the SEO tool are the marketers that called me. So they called me up and said, well, we can enhance your SEO. And I went, well, how? What do you do? What specifically do you do? And this is, well, we review your site and make sure all your keywords in place. I went, okay, what else do you do? Well, we check that your title and your various descriptions are tight and within certain parameters. I went, okay, what else do you do? Well, we make sure you get backlinks on other accredited websites. I said, so how do you do that? He goes, well, we go to other third parties and we give them your content and we ask them to post that there. I says, do they usually charge you for that service? Yes, they do. How much do they charge you? It varies from site to site. I says, okay, is that included in your fee? No. Okay. So we go through and we do all this. What's the base cost that they say? And they give me a cost. And what's the high end if you wanted to really amp it up? And they give me a number. And the numbers are scary. They're big numbers. And I said, so if I go through and I do all this, how long would it take me to rank an article if we started today? And they went 6 to 9 months. And I went, so the monthly fee I have to pay isn't necessarily just 1 month. It's actually, I got to pay 9 or 12 months for it all to kick in. And all of a sudden, you're not talking about a $400 or $500 investment. You're actually talking about, a $3,000, $6,000, $10,000 investment for a marketing company. So it was kind of interesting. So I was playing with those little things, and I just find it so interesting and intriguing. But in essence, the thing that I sort of mentioned last week that keeps coming back, it's sites take a long time. And there's a perception that, Google's so good and so fast and so brilliant. But it just takes so much time to actually get that accreditation. And the other side of it is, if you even do simple Google searches and you looked at who ranks the top, if you look at the age of the articles, and I never paid attention to this before, never did, because you never know, unless you're looking for something, you never really look. I find it, when I looked at those things, most articles are 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It takes that long to rank number 1 or getting that first page. So it's very, very interesting. Again, it's very insightful. Another couple of videos that I have come across, though, and I did share a couple of articles this week on machine learning and artificial intelligence. Some of them were really, really deep videos that I got of YouTube. So what I've done is I've got the YouTube video, loved it. So I've sent it to someone. Can you just transcribe this for me? So I want to transcribe it, and then I want to sort of edit it down with one of my editors and just go, okay, so can we post this? Because the depth that some of these YouTube channels are getting into with this, in the AI, how it started, the evolutions, all the different neural networks, phenomenal content. I go and look at their sites, and there's actually no written documentation on their actual site. So the guys who are producing the videos are not actually posting written content. So what I want to do is get the transcription from their site, from their actual videos, edit it and send it to them, let them post it. I'm going to post it too. And the hope is that everyone wins, you know. So, but those are sort of the things that I've been watching and doing this week. Yeah.
That's exciting. Taking something from that's only in one medium, you know, video, and getting it into a variety of forms. And it does take time, but it's good that you're, I guess, jumping the gun, getting in touch with everyone and spreading the information.
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is when I watch the video is well put together. There's a lot of graphics, there's a lot of information, and it sort of cuts in and out of someone narrating a video and some genuine footage. But having worked with you and knowing what you do, I know when someone's actually narrating the video, and it sounds like someone's narrating it. So it's not like it's not scripted or it's not written somewhere. But I don't understand why they don't post it, the written form of it. But yeah, the content is so rich, it's so good, really good.
Good. Another highlight for open source workplace coming in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. I have a question. I was reviewing some of our older content, and we've talked on a few different things.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big things you talked about was how you recharge and how you get through the day, how you start your day at 4 a.m., get your cup of coffee. But I didn't actually ask you, what's your whole morning routine from start to finish? Because for anyone younger, especially, who's thinking about getting to your point, starting something, especially a website that takes time, there's effort and there's a lot of time that gets put into these things. What's your morning look like? And if they're not hitting that kind of morning, that can help give them a mindset of where they maybe should start reaching toward.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And obviously my situation is very unique where I've got a job and I'm trying to do this on the side. And my job means I have to leave the home at a certain time, and that leaves me a short window. And that's why I get up so early. I get up so early because I want to have time to, one, wake up, to your point, get my coffee, and then sort of do a little bit of work at open source. But I've spent so much time trying to ensure, one, that I get to the right amount of sleep that I need. I need 7 hours sleep. I know if I get less than 7 hours, I struggle. If I go 2-3 nights with 7 hours sleep, I'm useless to everybody. So I basically ensure I'm in bed sleeping, like lights out, everything gone at 7 or 9 p.m. I sleep in an environment that is 65, 66 degrees. So I keep my room cool. I wear an eye mask, so the room's pitch black. Some way during the night, somewhere it always comes off. So I have 2 alarms. One is a alarm clock that goes off depending on my movement. So I'll set the alarm clock to go off at 4, and the app actually goes off between 3:30 and 4 depending on when I move. So it sort of detects and knows when I'm at my best place to wake it up. The other thing I use is I have a light. So I set the clock, and slowly 15 minutes before that time, the light actually goes from dark to light. So it's supposed to resemble, you know, the sun rising and sort of awakening. So I use those 2 things to wake myself up. I get up, as I said, I make my coffee. Most important thing, I drink bulletproof coffee, which is a little bit different. So I use butter, I use oil, I heat it up in a coffee press, and then I blend it. I love it. I also do some breathing exercises. So Wim Hof, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Wim Hof. I basically spend 12 minutes doing breathing. So basically breathe in and out fast and hold my breath for a minute. do the same thing, repeat that in and out breath for another minute, hold my breath for 2 minutes. Then fast breath in and out, hold it then for 3 minutes. And I can get up where I can hold it for the 3 minutes. And it's amazing the energy that actually brings to your whole cardiovascular system. I also have a sauna that I utilize. I don't do these every day, but I try to keep my regimen as consistent as possible. So I have an infrared sauna. So I'll basically go through different cycles on that. And some of it's anti-aging, and you can look at me, I need a lot of that. But some of it is just detoxification. With some of the issues I've had in my past with my health, detoxification, and actually the sauna is what I got. Why my health is the reason why I got it, but detoxification to allow my body just to detoxify. Cardiovascular, there's a lot of different settings in there. So basically, up, coffee, in, sit down. I always check my soccer first thing in the morning with my coffee. It's the first thing I do while listening to Brain FM relax music. I do that for 15 minutes. And I also, as I said, catch up on my sports, find out what all the gossip is first 15 minutes. Then I'll put on YouTube. I'll just watch whatever has been recommended to me, be it something about Manchester United, be it something light, right? Something that's not really going to take my brain to work to. And I sort of work my way up between 4 to 5. So by 5, my brain's getting engaged, and I'm watching something that just makes me want to get up and work. And actually, for me, that's not that hard in the sense of I'm watching some Gary Vee, some SEO, just watching something on Workplace, someone on AI, someone on something. I pretty much get up and get ready to go relatively quickly. It's not often that I'm not sitting at my desk working before 5 a.m. And that's pretty much my morning. I get up, I post, I check, what's going on the site, how many visitors, where's the traffic coming from, just little things that I go through. And then I try and post, usually around 6 is when I try and post. And usually between 6:15 to 6:45 is when I'll go and sit in the sauna. And maybe I'll share some of that stuff on social media. So that's what I do. And then I basically have my shower and leave the house about 7:10, 7:15 and make my way into the city to go to work, start my day's work. So yeah, it's a pretty full schedule, and it's taken me a lot of time to sort of get myself primed for that. But a lot of my priming comes in the evening before bed, ensuring that by the time 9 o'clock hits, I'm gone. Usually, honestly, so I have an Aura ring, which is what I'm wearing here. This is a ring that tracks your body temperature, sleep, your movement, heart rate variability, all those different attributes. So basically, this tells me how fast it takes me to fall asleep. It typically takes me between 3 and 5 minutes to fall asleep. I'm saying deep sleep. So what I do is I spend a lot of time getting myself ready. So all my lights will typically be off from about 7:30. I have red lights in the house. So basically I'll have red lights on the house so that whenever I'm walking around and my eyes are not getting stimulated, all my technology has got flux on it, which basically reduces the temperature. So it's got a red glow. I have glasses I wear that basically turns everything orange if I do want to watch something. And my whole body's being prepared. I also have some tea. I have tea with apple cider vinegar and honey. And basically I have that an hour before I go to bed, and all those different things just lays it out. And by 9 p.m. I'm gone. And if my brain's been active, I'll watch a little bit of Friends, and that just finishes me right off, and away I go. So
thank you for sharing.
There's a lot of information there.
Well, I personally, I take forever to fall asleep. My brain doesn't like to shut down.
I used to.
A stricter regimen might be something I should look into. Apple cider vinegar and honey in anything, whether it be tea, juice, any concoction. It's great. I've tried it, and I also enjoy it. So, like-minded. Yeah. But my biggest thought was, who's your team?
Oh, Manchester United. Oh, for sure. I can't believe we've got to this point. You're having to ask me that question. That's just, I can't believe it that we've got to that. But yeah, so Manchester. I mean, I went to college in Manchester, so I could watch. I could watch them every week. I have a season. I had a season ticket before I left to come to New York, and that was one of the hardest things for me to do, to actually give that up to come to New York. But thankfully here I'm able to watch every game live. So yeah, a lot of fun. A lot of fun watching them. Not so much these days, but for 20 years we had it pretty good. So I can't complain too much, and I got to experience most of it. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I thank you for putting timestamps as well on your morning. For a second there, I didn't think you were going to do it, but then you kind of crunched it down and said it takes about an hour for these things to take place. Then this happens for about 15 minutes, which is good because you don't want to, for someone who isn't used to a regiment or is trying to maybe get on something a little bit more up to your level, it's good to see exactly how much you spend where. And for someone who, they say younger people need more sleep, at least while growing. So if someone was an 18-year-old entrepreneur trying to be, you function with 7 hours, they may not. And I mean, they have to factor that in.
Yeah, no, I don't know if you've ever worked. There's a book called Why We Sleep. I believe that's what it's called, Why We Sleep. And actually, what they did and what the studies show is your sleeping habits change as you age. So obviously, whenever you're younger, you need a lot more sleep. But then as you go through your teenage and your late teens, early 20s, your actually body clock shifts, and actually it's later in the evening when you're more awake. And then as you get older, it sort of shifts back. And the book lays out all that time clock and all that, the science behind it. It's a really, really good book, Why We Sleep. And again, that's one of the books that I read as I tried to, because I struggled to sleep for the longest time ever. And I couldn't understand why. So I spent a lot of time, Tim Ferriss, all these different folks who have all these different kind of hacks trying to maximize their sleep. So I spent a lot of time reading about those things. But that book's really good, Why We Sleep. It's a lot of science in there. I actually took what I did at NASDAQ was there's a few diagrams in there. I took them and I put them on boards, on notice boards at NASDAQ, just because listen, you want to try and help people, but you got to be careful. You can't put it in their face, and you have to help people, or people have to help themselves, but you have to hopefully try and provide the opportunities where at least the information is there so they're able to do these things.
I understand. Sometimes in your face marketing, we're already oversaturated as it is. So you have to let people be ready to read or be open to your idea. Very much so. Now, I did hear you mention in the morning you start with soccer or football. I saw how you chose your words. Thank you for that. But I would consider that, personally, free time, where that's something specifically for your enjoyment. Unless you have bets going on, you have no benefit from, except for enjoyment from watching that team. Which leads me to my next question. How much free time, real free time, do you have per your work week and weekend? Because a job and then coming home and working on open source workplace, yes, working on open source workplace could be considered by some free time, but that's not purely, well, you do love what you do. So there is enjoyment there. But I mean purely no beneficial, nothing really to gain except entertainment time out of your week. I ask for especially a younger audience or someone who's used to a 9 to 5, come home, watch a few hours of TV and go to bed. If they think I'm tired of my life, I'd like to change it. I'd like to do something more like you. How much actual free time for entertainment do you use or have? That way they can kind of base it off themselves. This is really trying to hit home to our audience.
Sure. No, it's a good question, and I think it's one that people always toy with themselves, and it always goes back to that. I almost use the same view of it: is what's work-life balance. And if you're doing what you love, work isn't work, right? So it's a different mindset. It's a different mental view of it, but free time. So I'll always have free time in Manchester United playing, always. I probably don't get as much free time as what other people want, but I've always, well, I'm not always, I'll have to say that the last I don't know, maybe 9, 10 years, I've had this appetite to learn. So my free time was always reading, always watching YouTube videos, always trying to educate myself. I started in workplace 4 or 5 years ago. I didn't know really anything. So I spent so much time trying to learn, trying to better myself. And while that may not be considered free time to other people, that actually brings me immense joy and actually satisfaction. So the more I know, one, the better I know, and the more I can do for NASDAQ. I can also do for NASDAQ employees. So that gives me a lot of satisfaction. But would you class that as free time? I don't know. Those mornings, like even on the weekends, I'll still get up at 4 a.m. I just find it so much easier to keep that consistent clock. I will not sort of rush myself as much on the weekends, Saturday especially. Sunday's a little different because I put together a larger post on Sunday. Sunday's sort of an article where I put my thoughts and views and things that I want to do. But Saturday morning will be a little more relaxed. I'll actually watch more Manchester United content. So I'll watch like, a manager's interview. I'll watch some fan cast, podcast, things like that related to that nature. But I also know my body better now than I ever did. So I know when my brain's fatigued. I know when my body needs a break from whatever it is I'm doing. And in that, I will not hesitate to pull myself away when I know I need to. Some Saturdays, Sunday afternoons, I'll pull myself away and I'll just get away. I'll maybe watch some Sunday football or whatever that is, and I go to the store, I just do whatever. But Saturdays and Sundays, I'll work until I know I'm done. And then when I'm done, I know I'm done. And if I know there's things that I want to do and sometimes, you can't push through, I try not to sort of put myself in that situation, because I do work so many hours through the week that I know everyone needs that break, but Brain FM then just comes in. So on a Saturday or a Sunday, I will go and take a 30-minute relax where I'll go put the headphones on and cover my eyes with a mask and just watch it's a relax or refresh or meditation, whatever it is, just to rejuvenate myself. And then if that doesn't work, I'll put up Brain FM Focus and just put the headphones on, and that stuff just works like magic, man. It's just so good for me. But free time, I don't know, because I don't really think of it as free time and not free time. And for me, that's a great thing, because if I was trying to answer the question, and I don't have any free time, but everything I'm doing open source is free time, because it's the stuff I love to do, and it's the stuff that just gives me immense joy, and just a thirst for that content and that information, to be honest.
Well, thank you. I know we've talked about passion, and you have to really love what you do, especially balancing effectively 2 jobs or starting a company or a website. You have to really love it, or it will become work. Like you said, this isn't really work for you. So imagine that for anyone watching at home, seeing this video, whether it be now or a million years in the future, this is probably going to be true for you. If it's work, take a second look at what you're trying to really invest your time in. If it's something extracurricular, food for thought, I suppose. But thank you. I think it's very beneficial for everyone to hear that, especially after when you know yourself and you know that you're done working or you're tapped out for that moment, you can stop, you can rejuvenate, revitalize, but you don't stop the whole evening. You don't go watch TV the rest of the night. You re-energize your brain.
Sometimes I do. Okay. Sometimes I do. And I'll watch junk, right? I'll watch junk. And when I say junk, I mean Friends. Something that's really light that's going to give me a laugh. There may be times, because the way I look at it, if I can sit down and watch a documentary that takes concentration, then for me in my own mind, I could be working then. That's just how I work. It's weird. But if I just know I couldn't watch a documentary, have no appetite for something like that, then it's something like Friends, where I could just watch, switch off, fall asleep, and wake up and go, oh, I know where I am.
Okay. And yet another point. So don't feel guilty if there is a day where you have to just turn off for the last 2-3 hours. You just had a very long week, and it's do something lighthearted. But that's a good way to judge yourself to say, can I give my full thought to something? If so, I could be working.
Yeah, and it's a great term you use. Don't feel guilty about it, right? Because in essence, it's something I wrestled with, because you watch a lot of these, YouTube. You watch Gary Vee, right? And he's just always on. You have to work in 24/7. He tells his story. He worked from 16 or whatever, or 14, I think he says, 14 to 30 something, and every day hour of the day, and that's how he worked, and that's how he's programmed. Everyone has to understand how they're programmed, and you have to not feel guilty that your body, when you're ready, when you can perform, and when you can't, and you have to be that honest with yourself. But that guilt, it's a great point. So many people do feel guilty when they're not doing something that they feel that they should be doing. That guilt only leads to not having the ability to relax whenever you need that time to relax. It's a tough dynamic, and a tough thing to reconcile as well.
Agreed. You've mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk, a few times this video. Would you say he's a role model for you? Someone that you, or more someone you learn from rather than role model?
It's a good question, and I sort of hesitate to sort of say a role model. Certainly learning a lot from him. Absolutely. The more I get to know, the more I respect him. As a role model, I don't know. We're very different types of people, and that's not saying that he's good and bad or vice versa. But I watch a lot of what and listen to a lot of what he says. I've read, 4 of his books. I take a lot of the principles that he says, but I wouldn't say a role model per se. But I still listen to him, so I guess it depends how you define a role model, right?
That's true. Well, if not him, do you currently have any role models? If yes or no, how do they compare to perhaps childhood role model? I know a lot of people look up to their parents when they first start out, and as time goes on, maybe they still do look up to their parents and say, wow, my mom and or dad really knocked it out of the park. But sometimes that changes.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get your viewpoint.
Yeah, no, when I think about my family where I grew up, I was very fortunate. I grew up in a family where, my parents is just full of love, and just everything was there for us. And, and today I still feel that way about that's my home environment. What's interesting is you get older and you start looking at your parents and their personalities and their traits, and you start to see yourself more and more in who they are and what they do, and you see my dad, he gets so focused and so narrow focused, but he gets his mind on something, and I'm just like that too. Then I also have an attitude that sometimes that I don't know who would take that after. I won't say who I think that may be, but we'll let other people decide on that one. But I see those traits in me. It's kind of funny. But as role models, I've been so fortunate through my career. I've had people who've been so patient with me. And I mean really patient in the sense of, I think they trusted the person who was inside, maybe didn't have the ability and the skill set as other people around them, but actually could see that I had a tenacity and a desire to learn and always grow. And I think that's why I sort of got their patience. And with that, I've been allowed to be successful. But without their patience, I was actually thinking about this the other day, without their patience, who knows what I'd be doing today, I just don't know. I don't think I'd be where I am. I don't think I'd be as successful as I am, but I'd be doing something else that I'm probably good at, maybe, because I do have that ability and the appetite to do things. But I've been so fortunate to be able to share, hands-on with people who I consider real friends today, who were so patient with me. You have no idea how patient. They tell me how patient they had to be, but we have a giggle about it, But anyway, yeah.
That's good. That's good to learn. I guess for our viewers, a little takeaway would be learn from other people. Don't necessarily look up to them because, like you said, going back to sleep, you have to know your body, right? Everybody's different, especially at ages, right? So learn from as many people as you can and have patience with others, right?
No, and I think that's rubbed off in how I manage people as well. And I'm as I think about me as a manager, I'm fortunate in the sense of where I work at NASDAQ, you know, we hire really talented people. And the group I have, you know, the team I'm in, super talented, very different people, personalities. And I'm sure I might have said it before, but whenever I think about how I manage, I just basically do all I can to get out of their way. Honestly, I do. And it's okay, you own this. I'm here. You pull me in whenever you need me. You come to me if you have a question or you need clarification. But in essence, it's like, you know, they're smart people. They know what they're doing. They know what needs to be done. They don't need me looking over their shoulder. And I was chatting with one on the other week and the other day, and I simply said, I said, the biggest thing I think I've done this year is step back so much. It's really hard to do whenever, especially, you know, you operate in the environment. We operate within a NASDAQ. It's a brilliant company to work for, and it's the results and the execution has to be so high. So to sort of take that step back, there's a lot of risk in that. But actually, to be honest, I think it's the only way for people, not the only way, but it is the best way for people to learn. And it's the best way for people to feel that they can operate in an environment where failure will happen, but it won't happen in that dramatically, because in essence, there's always people watching, and ensuring that failure is sort of measured and sort of is never going to be extreme. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Yeah, I think it's one of the best things I've developed over the last year. That ability to step back, watch, observe, and actually let my brain work and sort of, okay, so we're doing this. What are the next steps, right? So when we finish this task, what's the next task? How does that play into what our bigger picture is? Yeah, I can't remember what your question is now. Sorry, I just went off on a tangent yet again.
That's fine. It actually brings me to yet another question. I was reading an article on open source workplace. They were saying that red tape and managers bog down employees. That's one of the biggest concerns of the standard employee and the officer in the workplace. It's they feel their manager is hindering them or causing them to do less than what they could. And to hear you say, I just stepped back and things started working, it's good to see yet again those numbers, that information that not only your articles have shared, but it works for you as well. Is there any tactic that you specifically employed? I know every workplace will be different, that you employed to step away from your people. Was there anything that you specifically said? It was like a real nail biter almost, where you want to go help people, but you say, I have to wait. How did you handle that patience? I don't know if that happened to you, but some managers, they want to put their fingers in every pie, and to step back and just wait can be a real challenge.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And again, all I can do is talk about my own experience and my situation, right? Where I'm managing a team who are really bright, really experienced, and know what they're doing. So it's very, very different if I had a couple of kids who are just out of college. Very different type of management style needed. They would need to have that more interaction with me, and I'd have to have more oversight. But I'm fortunate the team and the people that I have are really clever and know what they're doing. And yeah, so it's very easy. It's very easy, to be honest.
All right. Out of curiosity, well, actually, you know, we don't need to go into it. I was going to ask how long every person had been on the job. That way, when you say they're very clever, I wanted to see if there are varying degrees of, oh, he's been here or she's been here for 2 years, but they're very quick and very clever. Or there's people that they've been here for 5, 10 plus years, and I just step away because it's by now they've more than proven themselves. You talked about having a younger person compared to someone with either, you didn't necessarily say seniority, but
right. It's an interesting insight. I didn't really pay attention to that, so no, that's an interesting insight. So the folks who the team's been together since probably 2015, late 2016, and then Dan started last October. He's there just over a year, and they're all very different, and I'm different from them too. personality, mindset, approach. But again, whenever you have that blend, that's when the real fun stuff really happens. When you have people who see things from different ways, and everyone knows that they operate in an environment where their voice is important, and they have the opportunity to give an opinion, and the opinion's heard. Whenever you have that diverse, not culture, it is a diverse culture, because we, you know, I'm from the UK. There's a guy from England. There's a guy from Australia. There's a couple of people who grew up in the US. So we're a very diverse group, mentality, age, but also approach. So we all complement each other. But the biggest thing we have is, we all have the ability to think by ourselves, the ability to give a voice, and also operate in an environment where those voices are heard and considered, and they matter.
Very good, very good. So if I heard correctly, about 2 to 3 years the team has been. So it's plenty of time for you to trust them, for them to show their skills, their quick wit and cleverness. Do you wish you would have stepped back a little bit sooner, or do you think this was probably a good time and too soon may have hindered it? Out of curiosity, every team will be different, but
no, well, you are, and I guess what I never really sort of, I never mentioned it before, but a lot of it also comes from, so obviously I report up to somebody, right? So there's different ways it goes, right? And to be honest, the more I've been left alone to manage my time and my team, then that freedom has been more left out. So I'm managed exactly the same way, where I'm managed, okay, you know what you're doing, and I'm here for interaction, consult, and thoughts and opinions. That's how I'm managed today. So, and that's the environment that I need to be successful as well. If I'm managed in a box, I don't do well in that environment. That's not my nature. It's not my personality. So I have to be given the wings to sort of go and do my thing, and sort of let my own personality lead the way, so to say. So it kind of goes both ways, up and down. And to be fair to Ray, who I report to, he started in 2015 too. So the whole team has been there only for a short period of time. And although Ray and I took a while to get to know each other, work out how each other works, but over time, it's actually a real mutual respect is formed. And we're so complementary in how we approach things. Again, that's only to the benefit of NASDAQ and to the benefit of the team.
Of course. Okay. Yeah. So the freedom, I'll say freedom, was passed on to you, and it gave you more leniency and room to pass it on to those beneath you. Yeah. I could see how if you were put in a box and constantly asked for updates, constantly asked, what are you working on? How's this going? You would constantly be asking those underneath you for the same kind of answers, because you have to report somewhere else. Mm-hmm. I see how the snake eats its own tail almost.
Yeah. It's a tough conundrum. But as I say, we operate in that open environment, so it works well. And as a team, we have to execute, right? We have to execute. That's our mission. That's what we have to do. And we're known for it. So.
All right.
Yeah.
So I know you touched on what's going on this week. I asked you, drilled into a little bit more of the personal life. I like that you actually opened up some of the personal life. I didn't know how far into my questions you were going to take that.
I didn't know how far into the answers I would go either. So there you go. As a guy who doesn't share anything ever on social media, I'm giving a lot here, Alek. You pull it right out of me.
That's good to hear. Someone out there is going to want to know all this information, and it may actually help a lot of people somewhere down the line. So.
Let's hope so. Let's hope it helps somebody and doesn't hurt me.
I'm sure it won't. I'm
sure. I'm playing.
Do you have anything that's popped up that's going to happen within the next week or two? You talked about what's happening this week, and I know you have the big deadlines. We talked about Open Source Workplace 2.0, and that's constantly hanging over things. You've talked about your marketing, how you're getting feedback, and things are slowly building. Has anything new popped up? I figured you would have ran off either in a tangent or mentioned it already, but I do want to, in case it was overlooked, jog your memory. If not, and you're right on track as you were, then that's good.
Yeah, no, I still think it's on track for the timeline end of November, December. What I'm toying in my head is how much content do I still put on the current site? Do I still keep ramping that up? What I don't know, and I won't know until the new site goes live, is so whenever Google comes and indexes all the current site that's out there, when I transfer that over, does all that get lost? I just don't know. But that's just something that's goes on the back of my head. Only time will tell. But to be honest, it's, you know, if it is, it's 4 or 5 months of time like that gets maybe lost. But we'll see. But that's the only thing that sort of is going on, a bit of a concern. Everything else is still trial and error. You know, I just love running little experiments and seeing what happens. You know.
Well, let me ask you a question. Will your URL change? Will your tags change? Will your actual, where your articles rest, will that URL change in any way? If it won't, then Google will still hopefully be directing people to the same information, although it may look a little different.
No, and that's my hope. And I'm sure that's what the migration will mean. I'm sure it will. It's a different site. It's on a different platform, different coding. So I just don't know how that plays into it. But I mean, my goal will be to keep the URL as close to what it is today. That'll be my goal. But I just don't know if that has any impact. I've just no idea.
Okay.
But one thing that did come up actually was this week, where so if you go to my site, it's HTTP, so it means it's not HTTPS, which means it's not the highest level of security. Even though I did purchase that level of security, and this is sort of a note to myself on some of the things that you have to check. You always go back to, you know, what you're told and what you think you're buying isn't always what you think you're buying, or isn't always what you bought. So what I found is that the guys who designed my site, they didn't actually put it on. They've actually, my opensourceworkplace.com is a parked URL. There's nothing on it. Basically, when everything comes in, it goes into that and then goes to a secondary site where everything sits. So I don't know why they structured it that way, but that's just something I found out this week. So these are just like little nuances as you try to do things, as I get more educated and sort of dig into how this stuff works. I sometimes scratch my head and go, well, why was things done that way? And again, some of it is there's probably a perfectly good explanation as to why it is structured that way, but that's something that I wasn't aware of until Friday just gone. So again, you have to always check what you bought and make sure it is exactly what it says on the tin.
Well, I'm not sure how applicable this is for you, but I know this year with SSL, secure socket layers, they changed what is considered the top tier of security. So your site definitely could have been considered with that little green lock that shows up on if your platform shows it or allows it, HTTPS, right? But with that change, it could have knocked your site into HTTP. I'm not, again, that depends on how it was set up, but it may have to do with, because said it redirects. There is load times when you first go to a site, and the faster things load, the faster things get there initially, the better. So that may have something to do with it as well, but my ignorance shows because I do not know a for sure answer, just like yourself, just because there's always so much more to learn, especially in web development. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll see. And you know, as I said, it's not something I'm getting too stressed about, because I don't think it's really going to change my viewership that dramatically the next 6 weeks anyway. So again, these are just like little things, just noting, little questions to ask whenever the new site goes live. So.
Well, it'll be fun to hear from you when you get those answers, so that that way you can spread that information onto any new person putting together a video, or not a video, that's what we're doing, putting together a website. But in the meantime, thank you for speaking with me. As always, we'll see you next week.
Yep. No, thank you, Alec. Appreciate it. You drew a lot out of me this week. A lot of personal stuff that I didn't think I was going to share, but that's okay. Part of doing this is being vulnerable, showing people that you can be, and there's nothing wrong with being vulnerable. But I appreciate the questions, and I hope this is helpful for some people, and I hope people sort of learn from some of my errors, and sort of maybe there's a few insights of things I've shared that they can utilize too. So, but no, thank you. I appreciate it.
Perfect. Likewise, again, this will be live every Monday on Facebook, and we record this and we'll be posting it every Monday until the unforeseen future. So thanks, and we'll see you then.